Hey guys, good evening. I hope everyone is doing good today, and I'm glad to bring this video to you all today. And I hope that this video will really help you in your learning journey. And before we start, who are we? We are Data Valley, the fastest growing edtech company of 2025. And as a company, what do we do? How can we contribute to your personal development? So, we are a company that provides with IT solutions, trainings, and placement support. So what is this IT solutions about? Let's say you have a company and you need a talent pool of people. Yes, we do have skilled people who can readily take the job, okay, from day one. And talking about the trainings, if you're just into training and you don't want to get as a you don't want to get into an IT solution as an employee, yes, we have training support as well. And talking about the training support, we have multiple domains like data engineering, data analysis, data science, cybersecurity, ethical hacking, selenium developer, java, sql, python, software engineer, whatnot. Whatever you know whatever is in demand in the industry, we teach all those subjects. So feel free to ask one of our colleagues by visiting our website at datavalley.ai. They will be able to reach to one of our colleagues and they'll be more than happy to guide you on the program model and the program subject that you can take in for your career development. And not just the training, we also provide with 100% placement support. So whoever is enrolling to the courses, you get 100% placement assistance. Okay, and let's jump to the video for today. And myself, Franklin, I have almost 3+ years of experience as a data engineer, and I'm really super excited to bring these kind of knowledgeable content to you, so that it contributes to our fellow people who are trying to get into a company through interview, right? So getting through an interview is a big process, isn't it? And if I could be part of your success journey, I'm more than happier. What could be more happier than that, isn't it? So I'm really happy to contribute to the knowledge of yourself. And if you have been following our video, you must be aware that this is the ninth video of our string series, right? So within the strings, this is the ninth video, and overall for the Python interview series, this is the 15th video. And talking about the strings, we have been covering methods separately and the operations separately. And within the operations, this is the third video for today. Okay, and for agenda, we'll be covering the iteration operations. Then we will learn about the raw strings, and then we will be learning the formatted strings. If someone is new here, I would like to let you know that there are previous videos that you can access. Please feel free to revisit them. And this is just a standalone video. This has nothing to do with that, but this is just being sequential. So you can learn this now, but if you could also check up on the previous classes, those will be helpful in a way that you will learn something in an organized fashion. Okay, so I would recommend you to go and learn the previous video and then come to this. Or even if you have to learn just this, that is completely fine with me. All right. Okay, so we'll start with the iteration operation. What is an iteration operation? An iteration operation on strings involve processing each character of the string sequentially. So, talking about the iteration, it usually happens on an iterable. So, what is an iterable object? An iterable object is something where you can iterate through it again and again. So, for example, string is an iterable, list is an iterable, tuple is an iterable. So, for all these, you can access the elements one by one, and then you will be able to access and process the elements. All right. So, in an iteration operation, especially in context to strings, you will be processing each character, okay, one by one, each character in a sequential fashion. Python strings are iterable objects, meaning they can be traversed using various looping constructs. So strings is an iterable object, right? Like a list, like a tuple. String is an iterable object. So what you can do is you can travel through each of the elements within a string, okay, with different looping constructs. So talking about the looping constructs, you have while, for. So these are the different looping constructs that you have. So by using these kind of loops, you can iterate through each of the elements in an list in a string sequentially. So to start with, we'll start with an simple loop iteration. And the method that we are going to see at first, this is the most common and straightforward way to iterate through a string. And the method that I'm talking about is for loop. I hope you all know what is a for loop and a while loop. While loop is true until a certain condition is met, and for loop is definitive. So you'll be having a fixed scale or a fixed amount of loops that you'll be performing. So it's definitive, and the while loop is conditional based. And while using this for loop, you can iterate through each element of your string, okay. For example, in the below code implementation, I've got here my string, which is an variable object. So for this my string variable object, I've got a string here saying Python, right? So how can I iterate through it? How can I traverse through each element? I know how to print Python. For example, in this case, if I print my string, yes, I'm able to print the entire string. But how do I iterate through each of the elements? And that is where you have this looping functionality, okay. So to loop, and this being a simple and basic loop iteration, we'll go for a for loop, okay. In here, if you see, what have I done? I've mentioned for char in my string, print char. So what does the char in here mean? You know my string, okay. Yes, we are trying to access the my string, all right. So what is char here? So char is nothing but a temporary variable. So what do I mean by a temporary variable? First, I'll run this so that I can demonstrate it to you. Okay. Now when this thing ran, okay, this code ran, you can see that I was able to access P, Y, T, H, O, N, right? I'm accessing one element by one. So if you see here, I printed, it just prints whatever is in the string. But in here, I've looped through each of the letters here and I'm printing the letters, right? So how was this possible? By using for loop. And if you ask me what is this char, it's a temporary variable. So what do I mean by a temporary variable? So temporary variable is where you assign a variable for each of the element within a loop just temporarily, okay. For example, for here I've used char, right? So char is equal to P, and in the next iteration char is equal to Y, and in next iteration char is equal to T. So it goes on and on, okay. So that is how your iteration works. Okay, this is just an example. So this is how the iteration works, right? And each time the char is your variable for each of your element. What if I use some other temporary variable? Okay, let's see that in explanation as well. So for example, instead of char, I'll just put x. Is that possible? Yes, it is possible. Because again, this is just a temporary variable. This is nothing to do with syntax or any kind of function calling. So even if I put x, it'll get printed. Why not if I put my name? Will it print my name, or would it print whatever is in the Python by accessing it? Let's check that. So even if I put Frank, okay, which is a temporary variable, I'll be getting the same result. Okay. So the key point here is the char hidden here is a temporary variable, and you will be able to access all of your elements with this temporary variable, and you will be able to process them. Okay. Next, in this example, the for loop assigns each character of my string to the char variable in successive iterations, allowing for individual character processing. So that's what we learned, isn't it? So all your temporary variables get assigned to one element after one. They access it and then process it, and then it goes again into the loop. It accesses an element and then process it. So that's how your for loop works. Now, yes, now I understand how to access the element and process it one by one. But what if I want the index of the particular character? So we all know that a string will always have the elements with its index, right? So for example, the string below. So we all know that the index of p is 0. So it goes on, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So 0 to 5, you have Python. So that is the index. But I don't see it. It has, but I don't see it. How do I see it? How do I know what is the index of a particular character in a string? How can I access it or know it? And that is where you will be using the enumerate functionality. Okay, so you will use enumerate function, and what it does is that it will assign an index value, or it will be able to expose the index value for your characters in the string. If both the character and its corresponding index are required during iteration, the enumerate function is used. Enumerate returns pair of index comma character for each item in the string. So whenever you use the enumerate method for all your elements, you'll be getting an index as well as an output. Okay, and what it does is not just gets it, it also will return it. Okay, so you will be able to see the index for each of your character within a string separately. Okay, let's see how the enumerate method works in the code functionality. For example, in here I've got a my string is equal to Python. As I said earlier, I know the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For example, let's say you have a larger string. Okay, for example, I have a larger string, and now I ask, what is the index position of set? Are you going to count from here? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're wasting your time, isn't it? It's obvious. So instead of hard coding or manually trying to find it, go use the functionalities within the Python. Okay, so in this context we'll be using the enumerate function. How do I do that? We all know that if I don't use the index here, all your characters will be printed, right? But to get the index, I'll be using for index comma char in enumerate method, and in the enumerate I'm passing in an argument called my string, which is my variable for the Python, right? This is the variable for the Python string. So I'm passing this variable enumerate. So I am running an enumeration function on this particular string, and while it runs I want to access the index and the character. So now I'm printing it, and let's see if it gives us the index for each of the elements. Yes, it has given us the index. So if you see here, I've got index 0 pi p, index 1 y, index 2 t, index 3 h, index 4 o, and index 5 n. So that is how you get the index and character of the elements in a string using enumerate method. This provides a convenient way to access both the position and the value for each of your character. Yes, we just learned it. Next, iteration with while loop and indexing. For loop is the most convenient, most easiest, and most widely used within the industry. So, does that mean that we don't use while loop at all? No. Although less common for simple character iteration, a while loop can be used by manually managing an index variable. For simple use cases like, getting the index of an element, we most probably don't use the while loop. Why is that? Because while loop is mostly used in an conditional scenario basis. For example, until I say while this is equal to true, perform a loop operation. So that is how your while loop works. And talking about it being less common, it is really less common because yes, it satisfies a condition, I understand. But when you don't use it in a proper way, when you don't define what is the end limit, when you don't give a proper decision tree kind of structure. For example, let's say until something is true, I want you to do this. And what are the chances that the condition is going to be true at some point? In that case, when you're never going to reach the true at all, your while loop iterates again and again, and there are chances that even you might break down the resources. Okay, so your Python code might crash the application. So be sure how you use the while loop. So in here, I've got my string is equal to Python, and then I'm providing a manual value called index is equal to 0. Do not worry, I will explain that to you. Now here is my main condition. While index is less than the length of my string, print my string the index value, and each time you iterate, go index plus or is equal to 1. So what's happening here? You all understand the variables, right? My string is equal to Python and index is equal to 0. So these are the two variable objects with different object types. So this is having a string, this is having an integer. That's fine. So what happened here is I'm saying length my string. So in here I have Python. So what is the length for this one? The length is 6. So what I'm saying, while index is less than 6. So what is the index value? Starting index value 0. So while 0 is less than 6, I want to perform the following operation. And here I'm printing it. What am I printing? I'm printing my string square bracket index. So based on the index value, my particular element at that particular position is accessed and then it gets printed. And each time it loops through in, I'm saying index plus or is equal to 1. Okay. Now, so what happens? Each time it iterates, it will give you plus 1 value. Okay. So P plus 1, Y plus 1, T plus 1, H plus 1, O plus 1, N plus 1, as long as this condition is not met. Now I'll show this to you. So when I ran this, it has given me Python as similar to your for loop, isn't it? And this is the reason it is less common, because for while loop, see the lines of code that you write, right? And you're also manually giving an index value, which is not recommended. Okay, so this is how you use while loop for your iteration. And talking about the above method, we are explicitly using the string indexing to access the characters at each position, unlike our for loop where you use the enumerate method to provide an index value for each character of your string. Iteration over words. Yes, we all know that how to get something printed, right? For example, we learned about printing each letter of your string, right? For example, in this case, when I say print sentence, so you're printing the entire sentence, right? For example, when you want to print each character, what do? You go for loop, right? So to print each of the, I just want to show you the difference. That's why. So in here, if I print, each of the letter gets printed, right? Prints letters. So how do I print a word then? You all know how to print the entirety. You know how to print the letter. So how do you print a word then? For example, hello is a word. I want to print it alone. If is a word, I want to print it alone instead of each time printing just the letter. That's where your split method comes into play. So I've got a sentence here saying that hello world from Python, and I'm saying words is equal to sentence dot split. So what is the default behavior of this split method? This split method is going to get your sentence splitted based on the white space. Okay, the default here is white space. Okay, so if I say comma, it is going to break it based on the comma. For example, in the above, oh sorry, I have to provide it within a string. Yep. So if I give this, I'm saying the separator is comma. Therefore, after hello, it has broken it down and then it has printed the world, right? Hello world from Python. So the default behavior is space. And now what happens is that it is giving me, okay, let me remove this. Okay. It gives me hello world from Python. How is that? Because the split method here breaks your sentence based on the white space character. And therefore, for word in words, I'm saying print word and it has printed me the word. Alright. So when you use the split method, it allows for the word level processing within the iteration. So whatever you have, you can perform a word level processing. And next, what are raw strings? So this is our next operation for today. Raw strings in Python are a special type of string literal that treats backslashes as literal characters rather than as a start of escape sequences. So based on the sentence or based on the word raw string, what are we trying to define here? We are just saying that the raw string will just consider your string in its raw format. Okay? So what do I mean by escape sequence? You can call something as an escape sequence. For example, a backslash n, what does it do? It gives you a new line. What does a backslash t do? It gives you a new tab. Sorry, not a new tab. It gives you a tab. What does a backslash d define? It defines a digit, right? Similarly, whenever this backslash is called, and let's say you don't want it to be treated as a escape sequence or a special character, in that case you can use this raw string where all your backslashes are considered as a literal character rather than with any special functionality. This is useful in scenarios such as where backslashes are common and should not be interpreted as special characters. So when you don't want to interpret your backslash as a special character or as an escape sequence or as a different functionality, and you want it to be treated as a just as a raw string. So if you provide a, you want to be treated it as an a, right? You don't want to treat a as a some other functionality like greeting or whatever the method. You don't want it. You just wanted to call it as a, and that is all you want. So that is where the raw strings come into play. Let's see some of its use cases. Regular expressions. Regular expressions often use backslashes for special character classes. Example, backslash d for digits, backslash s for white space. So Using raw strings prevents the need to double space these backsplashes. Need to double escape these backslashes. So whenever you use the raw strings in your regular expressions, you are preventing the need, okay, to double escape these backslashes. So what do I mean by these double backslashes? For example, if you see here, this is a double backslash, right? This defines a double backslash. What if you don't want to use a double backslash? That is where your raw string literal comes into play. All right. Sorry. Okay. That is where this comes into play. All right. Now, talking about the file paths. Windows file paths use backslashes as directory separators. Example C colon backslash users backslash documents. Raw strings amplify, sorry, raw strings simplify the representation of these paths by avoiding the need to escape each backslash. So, in a normal usage, okay, whenever you use the backslash, those are considered as an escape sequence. Okay, and what if you need to avoid using this escape backslash? So, that is where you use a raw string where all of these backslashes are treated as a normal raw string rather than representing any kind of escape sequences. We'll be seeing this in the practical code implementation as well in few minutes. But before that, yes, we learned how it helps us to escape in the regular expressions. We learned how it helps in the file path. Now, before that, how to create a raw string. So to create a raw string, what you do is you prefix the string literal with the letter lowercase r or an uppercase r. So whenever you want to denote something as a raw string, you just put at the beginning or as a prefix lowercase r or an uppercase r. Okay, so that is how you denote your raw string literal. Now let's uncover a few examples. I previously discussed about the regular expressions. So in the below, before jumping to the code, I want you to know it further, bit elaborative. Regular expressions frequently use backslashes for special character classes. Example D for digits, backslash S for whitespace. Using raw strings prevent Python from interpreting them as string escape sequence before the regular expression engine processes them. So, in a normal fashion, to denote something as a digit, what you have to do is you have to denote it using double backslash. Okay, but when you represent that using the using the raw strings, you don't have to use double backslash. All you have to do is denote it using the or, okay, this lowercase or an uppercase prefix, and then you can just use your regular expressions as it has to be used. For example, in the below example, you can see that I'm going to run a Python code without the raw strings. How do I know it is a raw string? I mean, how do I know I'm not using a raw string in the below? First thing, I'm not using or here. Okay, when I use the lowercase or an uppercase r, it denotes I'm using an raw string. Okay, but in here I haven't used it. Without the regular, without the raw string, I have to denote my regular expression using a double backslash, as you can see here, right? So what I've done here, I've got double backslash d, and the d denotes digits. Okay, so it's a 3-digit hyphen, 3 digit, hyphen, and a 4 digit. So this is a regular pattern, and this is how I have denoted it. And now what I'm doing, I'm checking if it matches something. Okay, so I want you to match something like 123 hyphen 456 hyphen 7890. Now when I run this, yes, I can see that it is a match to 123 456 7890. So this is the pattern I was looking for, and this is the number I have provided. I'm looking if it is matching, and now I've got, yes, I have matched regular. Okay, so how does it differ when I use the raw string literal then? When using the raw string literal, all I have to do is, instead of using double backslash for my regular expression, I can just denote my regular expression using a single backslash. So you see here, I've denoted first with an lowercase r. Alright, and within the double quoted string, okay, unlike our previous example where I used double backslash, in here you can see that I've got a single backslash d, single backslash d, and a single backslash d. So it's the same as above. So what it denotes 3-digit number, 3-digit number, and then a 4-digit number. I'm checking if it matches. Let's see what's the result. Yes, it matches. So both these outputs are similar, but the way we have got it, it differs. So this is the regular way of doing it, and this is by using raw string, where you don't have to use extra backslashes. Now, literal interpretation of escape sequences. If you want to print an escape sequence literally, without its special meaning, a raw string achieves this. If you haven't understood anything till this point, now it will make sense to you about the raw string. So I'll show you how I'm running this and how it is actually differing. So in here, now I've got a regular string with an escape sequence. Okay. So what does this basically do when I use backslash n? What does it define? Feel free to write your answers in the comment section. When I use backslash n, it denotes that it is a new line. Okay. And now when I run this, you can see that I printed hello world. How did I provide it? Hello world. And now it is printing me hello because I've used backslash n. It denotes a new line. So the next sentence goes to the next line and it has printed me hello world, which is completely fine. But what if I don't want to use this as an escape sequence? What if I don't want to use this with its extra functionality, but instead I just want the backslash n to be printed in my sentence? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. All you gotta do is add just the r. It can be either a lowercase or an uppercase, it doesn't matter, but just use the r and print it. Now when I print this, you can see that I've got hello backslash n and world, right? So that is how you print your escape sequences without its functionality. Okay, so you have printed the sentence in its raw string format. Next one for the file paths. And we use the file paths especially for a for a use case where you have to use the Windows paths. Why is that? Window file paths usually use the backslash as the separator. In a regular string, you would need to escape each backslash, leading to a cumbersome code. And raw strings helps us to simplify this. So every time you use file path with a backslash in your Windows system, you have to pass through each of this escape sequence, and it is a cumbersome code. But using a raw string literal, you don't have to do that. For example, see here. How am I mentioning my path? I'm overdoing the backslashes, right? So everywhere you can see that I've got a double backslash. So once it passes through, then it considered as a normal file path, right? See here. But what if there is an easy way? Do we have an easy way? Yes, we do have an easy way. All you got to do is use the or string literal here. So in the above, I showed you a capital R or an uppercase R, and now I'm showing you a smaller case R. The same file path, but you can see that I've just pasted the file path as it is, right? Would you prefer this or this? It's obvious, isn't it? Do you really like writing further extra codes when all you can do is copy and paste it? Why do you have to modify it? What if the modification that you did become wrong? So always prefer for the efficient one, and in this one it's the raw string letter. So I mentioned how R here, and now when I print this, you can see that I've got the same result with no difference, right? So that's how your raw string letter helps you. Now here are the key characteristics and operations I would want you to remember. Literal interpretation of backslashes. The defining feature of a raw string is that backslashes are treated as literal characters. This means backslash n in a raw string will be interpreted as a backslash followed by the letter n, not as a new line character. So in the above example we learned, isn't it? When you use a normal backslash n, it defines a new line. But when you use it with a raw string literal, the uppercase or a lowercase prefix r, then you're printing it as a literal string. No escape sequence processing. Python's interpreter does not process escape sequences within raw strings, ensuring that the characters are stored and displayed exactly as typed. So when you try to print, so instead of processing a string that has a new line or a tab, so whatever you represent in your escape sequence, okay, those do not get functioned. Instead, you will be printing it using a string literal where even the backslash n just gets printed, the backslash r just gets printed. So it just turns the escape sequence into its raw normal form or a raw string form. And then compatibility with string operations. Raw strings are still string objects and can be used with all standard string operations like concatenation, slicing, indexing, and methods. Example, length of string, upper function, find function. So just because you use raw string method or a raw string operation doesn't mean that you cannot use the methods. Yes, you can method. Yes, you can use the method. And these Python string operation, okay, especially the raw string format is especially compatible with other methods. Okay. So it is super compatible with other string operations and methods. Now let's talk about the limitations. A raw string cannot end with an unescaped backslash, as this would lead to an unclosed string literal. For example, so R string literal, double quote C colon, single backslash, path, single backslash. So would result in an error. To represent a backslash at the end of a raw string, you need to escape it or concatenate a separate string containing just the backslash. So whenever you're trying to use the raw string literal, you cannot, okay, you cannot use the backslash as the end of a raw string. And if you need to use the backslash at the end, make sure that you use it for a concatenation operation or you try to put in an escape sequence. If not, you will be thrown out with an error. Okay. In short, raw strings simplify the code readability and reduce the potential for errors when dealing with string that contains numerous backslashes, resulting in context like regular expressions and file paths. So you can use the raw string literal for different use case scenarios as we have discussed earlier, and therefore you can prevent the activity of an escape sequence and the further functionality of a backslash potential. Okay. Next, we'll be learning about the next operation. So what is our next operation? The next operation is a formatted string or a f string operation. We all know about the format method, right? So this format method, why is it used? What is it? The format method, you can otherwise call it as a formatted string literal. Okay, so you can call it formatted string or a f string literal or a f string operation or a formatted string operation. It's all up to you. Let's keep it short as a f string literal. The f string literals or f strings introduced in Python 3.6 provide a concise and readable way to embed expressions inside string literals. If you have followed one of our previous format method, we learned how do we embed expressions, variables, different functions within it, right? So that is what we'll be learning in this video as well. But it's quite opposite and bit different because that was a method and this is a operation. So I'll show you how the formatted strings are used for a different expressions and a different attribute, I mean variables or a different functions. Formatted string literal provides a concise and readable way to embed expressions inside string literals. They are prefixed with an small f or a uppercase F and use curly braces to contain expressions that are evaluated at runtime and then formatted into the string. So what are the key things I'm trying to address here? To use a formatted string literal, first you have to use either the small letter F or an uppercase F. Okay, so what does this F denote? It denotes that you are trying to use an F string literal, and then you have to use curly braces. What are the curly braces and what does it represent? Can anyone drop your answers in the comment section? The curly braces act as your placeholder. Okay, so whenever you use the f string literal and you try to put in a placeholder, to represent these placeholders you will be using the curly braces. And what does these curly braces contain? What can it hold? So these curly braces can contain expressions that are evaluated at runtime and then formatted into the string. Okay, for example, you have some functionality that has to be invoked first. For example, let's say a is equal to 1, b is equal to 2, and now I have a result is equal to a plus b. So how do I print this in my print statement? Because I do not know the result yet. So instead of leaving that empty, or instead of doing it the other way around, all you can do is whatever the result is on time, you can just embed that in your print statement. To embed it, you use an f string literal and then a placeholder, and these placeholders are represented within a curly braces. So within these curly braces, you define the variable, an expression, or a function call. What are the core features and operations? First, as a feature, we will learn about embedding the variables. What do I mean by embedding variables? So you have a string, and within that string, you want to directly insert your variable. Is that possible? Yes, it is possible. So first, I've got a variable called name is equal to Alice, and then I've got age is equal to 30. So those are two different variables, isn't it? So name is a variable, age is a variable. And name has got a string, and age has got a integer 30. And now I'm calling in a new variable called as message. And this message is saying that f string literal My name is placeholder name, and I am placeholder 8 years old. What are we trying to address here? So, what are the two key things for your f string literal? You have to use the f string, which I've gotten here. And for this f string, I have to ensure that I use a placeholder as well, where it embeds the expressions and the variables or your function call. Keeping the variables in context, we are going to insert the variables in this placeholder. Okay, so let's see how that works. So my name is placeholder name, placeholder age. Okay, so what am I doing here? I'm embedding the variable here. I'm embedding the variable here. Now when I run this, you can see that, okay, my name is Alice and I'm 30 years old. So how did that change? What is the actual benefit? For example, let's say I am changing this. Frank, my name is Frank and I'm 30 years old. So to see the actual benefit, for example, let's say I have another one, okay? But now I'm going to show you the hard coding fashion. So what you'll do is you will just print my name is whatever the name that you want, and I am 30 years old. But this doesn't make any sense. What if I change the name again? You see here, right? So you embed the variable, and therefore, whatever the changes that you make to your variable, that reflects in your print statement, right? Therefore, always prefer the f string, literal. Okay. Now, yes, we learned about embedding the variable. So how do we embed an expression? So in here, I've got x is equal to 10 and y is equal to 5. And now, learn from me how do I embed the expression. So f string literal here, I've got the sum of x and y is x plus y. What does it print? It gives me sum of 10 and 5 is 15. So this is an expression, right? X plus y. So even if it is an expression, that works in real time, and then it gives me the result out. What if I change here? What if I say 20? Does it reflect? Yes, it has changed. So that is how you use format strings or f string literal to embed your expressions. Now let's talk about calling your functions or your method call. Invoke functions or method within the f string embedding their return values. So whatever the return value of your function, that gets printed in your dot format method. For example, I've gotten here a method, a function called as def greet. Okay, the function is greet, and the greet will take an argument called person name. And what does it print? Return f string hello person name. So whatever the name that I provide for the greet argument, okay, which is the person name, okay, that will be taken into this f string literal and that will get printed. Okay, let's see how that works. So I'm having a user called Bob, and what I'm doing, and within the greeting message, so I'm creating an object, and to that object I'm saying I'm calling the function. So I'm having a function call here. So f string literal greet user welcome. So this greet user, user is an argument here, right? So greet person name, and here I'm saying user. So why did I mention the user? Because that is my variable name. So user is equal to Bob, and here greet user. So that will take Bob here and it will print welcome. Let's see this in an example. So here I've got hello Bob, welcome. So that is how you use f string literals for your function call. Now the format specifiers. What are format specifiers? We learned about variables, we learned about embedding expressions, we learned about embedding a function call. So, what are the format specifiers? The format specifiers are nothing but when you are trying, you understood formatting, where you call your variable, your uh, expression, whatever it is. When you use the format specifiers, you define that how would you like the particular specifiers to be formatted as. So, in short, you are defining the format of your specifiers. Okay. So, let's see that in example. First one, you got to understand that you always need to use a colon. Okay. So, you control the formatting of embedded values using the format specifiers after a colon. So, you specify your format specifier using a colon and then within the curly braces. Okay. Let's see that in the number formatting. So for number formatting, it controls decimal places for floats, add thousands, separators, etc. Okay. Here I've got a variable called pi. Pi is equal to 3.141592635. So 26535. So now I'm using f string literal. Fine, I'm using f string. I met the first condition. I'm using a placeholder. So I met the second condition. And for format specifiers, I need to use a I need to use a colon. So I've used colon here. And then I'm mentioning what I want. What kind of formatting do I want? Okay. Here, because I mentioned dot to f, what happens is that I'll be able to print only the two elements after the dot notation. So for example, in this case, 3.1415926535, right? In here, I'll be able to print just the two elements after my dot notation. So you see here, I've got 3.14. Why not the all? Because I've specified my format to be only dot 2f. So I want only two decimal points. So that is why pi with two decimal places is 3.14. And then I've got a large number here which says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and in the formatted number, what I have mentioned, the large number with comma separator. So to this large number, what so I'm using a colon here if you notice, and I'm saying comma. So it is going to split my large number with comma, as you see here. So now it has given me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that is how you use the format specifiers for your number formatting. Let's talk about the formatting now. Okay, alignment and padding. Using the format specifiers, you can align text within a specified width and fill empty spaces. So, not just the number formatting, you can also use the format specifiers to alignment or to configure your padding configurations. Now let's see this. I've got a two variable called item is equal to apple and price is equal to 1.2555. And now what I'm doing here is I'm creating a variable called aligned output. I've got an f string literal. I've got a placeholder. And then I'm saying item colon lesser than equal to 10. So what does it do? It pads. Okay. So it pads to 10 spaces. I've got a pipe here. And then I'm saying price. And for the price, I don't want you to have more than 2f. Okay. So what does 2f mean? I want it to be only two decimal points. Okay, and then here if you notice, I am left aligning using this symbol, and I can do the right alignment using this symbol. Okay, greater than symbol. Now when I print this, you can see that I've got Apple pipe dollar 1.26. So this condition has been met. So I've got only two decimal points after this, right? 2f, so 1.26, that's fine. So I want only just 10 spaces. I mean 10 padded spaces, so I've got the padded space here as well, right? Next, you can also debug your code with the format specifiers. How is that possible? Yes, it is possible, and I'll demonstrate that to you. From Python 3.8, we are introduced with the equal to parameter. Okay, equal to specifier, not parameter, sorry about it. So equal to separator, which you can use for quick debugging, displaying both the expression and its evaluated result. So what do I mean by that? So earlier in the formatted strings, you learned that you can embed an variable. You learned how to embed an expression, right? X plus y, and you will be returned with an result on real time. So what happens with the debugging is that, first thing, after the expression, you have to always use the equal to symbol. Okay, this equal to symbol denotes the Python. Sorry, it denotes the debugger. Okay, and what this debugger does is that it helps you not just to print your expression, but also to evaluate the result. For example, I'll demonstrate that in an example. Okay, so I'll put this as without debugger. Okay, you all know this, right? About embedding the expression weights into width. What will it return? So I've got width, I've got height. So I must be written with 10 into 5 is equal to 50. This is how you normally perform your f string literal, right? So you want the result directly in your code, and it has performed the expression in real time, calculated your result, and it has printed, which is fine. But what if I need to know how did it come up with this? So in that case, you can use the equal to separator here. So equal to specify here. So what this equal to specifier does is that it'll print your expression, and at the same time it'll print the result as well. So when I run this, it gives me width into height is equal to 50. So how did it print the expression there? So how did it print there? By using the equal to specifier. So when I put the equal to specifier there, it not just prints my result, it also prints my expression. Okay, so that is how you use format specifier for your f string literal to find or debug your code. Okay, I think we learned a pretty much decent subjects today. So just to give a quick summary, at first we learned about the iteration operation. So for iteration operation, you learned about strings behavior with for loop, while loop, and then also you learned about printing your index using the enumerate method. And then we learned about raw strings, where all your escape sequences lose its special character or a special potential, and where you just print the string as it is in a raw format. Then we learnt about the formatted string or f string literal, where you are able to embed your variable expression, or you are able to you will be able to uh, or you'll be able to embed your functions, right? And then also we learned about the format specifiers, where you put equal to and then you'll be printed with your expression and then the result. So I hope this session was very beneficial to you. And before we finish, who are we? We are Data Valley, and we are the fastest growing edtech company of 2025. And we as a company can help you in your career development by providing you with IT solutions, trainings, and placement support. Okay, and we have our data centers across India in Hyderabad. So in Hyderabad alone, we have four data centers, and we have our headquarters in US and United Kingdom as well. So if you're someone around these geo regions, feel free to ring to the particular number, and you will be able to access the content, or you'll be able to get an idea about how we can help you with your career development. And also soon we are expanding our branches to Chennai, West Bengal, Delhi, Karnataka. So feel free to make most of the resources that we provide, and good luck with your interview preparation. Until I meet you next time, this is Franklin signing off. Good luck with your learning. Bye bye. Take care.